Live from America's heartland, this is the Daily Truth Report with your host, Noah Christopher.
Welcome back to the Daily Truth Report. We've got a favorite back with us today. Our good friend, the analyst of time, Bo Polny, is back on the show from Gold 2020 Forecast. Bo, welcome back to the show.
Noah, thank you. We have a lot to talk about. Very, very important year we're at. This is going to be a very important interview. I think the viewers will love it. And we're just going to cover a lot of information today, Noah. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and thank you for coming and making time. We don't typically talk to you twice in 1 month, but I sent you a message and I said, hey, this is critical time. Can we get you on for just a short show? And we found the time. So thank you for coming on. For those of you who don't know Bo, he analyzes the cycles of time. Really interesting stuff. And he's been wildly accurate. You can go back and look at some of our old interviews, but by looking at the cycles of the way time repeats itself, the time cycles in the Bible, all sorts of things, he stitches it all together, and he comes up with some really amazing presentations. So I think you're going to enjoy this if you've never seen Bo before. And if you know Bo, then that's why you're here, because you're looking forward to this just as much as I am. He's been on CNBC before. His videos on YouTube have been viewed 11 million times. And that's probably, we know that's a censored number, so he's probably been viewed a lot more and starting to gain a huge following on Rumble too. So we're really happy to have him. And this is really, I'm almost thinking of this as part two of our conversation from, I think it was January 3rd we talked last. And we've got some wild stuff here. Usually, sometimes Bo tells us something and it sounds crazy when he first says it. And then 6, 9, 12 months later, we find out it was true. We've got a couple of things to talk about today that just from the last time he was on 3 weeks ago have already started to come to light. So that's why I had to have him back on. We're going to talk about those things. We're going to talk about gold and silver. We're seeing some big movements there. And we're going to talk about a little bit about the stock market and a lot about cryptocurrencies, because we're seeing some huge movements there too. I always like to do this. I like to set the stage and tell everybody we're recording this on January 23rd of 2023, and Bitcoin is at 23,000. When Bo was on just 3 weeks ago, it was at 16,800. It has had a wild move, and that's one of the things Bo was right about. You can go back and watch the old interviews. We'll talk more about that in a minute, but it has had a wild move from the time that Bo called the bottom, and that's all documented as well. It's up over 40%, and that's since November. Really incredible. And we've got a big update for you on that, so stick around to the end for that one. XRP is at 42 cents. Oh, let's see. Litecoin is at $90. And for all the fans of Quant's at 143. And we've got a new one we're going to talk about today, ICP, Internet Computer. We've never talked about that before, but Bo took a few minutes and put together a special analysis for us. You can only get that here. It's not even in the newsletter. He did it special for this interview. So we'll talk about that more in a little bit. And now, because everybody's here to listen to Bo and not to me, I got to get into the presentation. I'm going to share my screen so that we can get you the slides, which are always amazing. Bo spends a lot of time on these. Every time they're just visually incredible and full of information. So I love these. I'm going to put this one on the screen right here. You can get the link to this right below the video, wherever you're watching this, on YouTube or Rumble or anywhere else. And we might also get it up on Twitter. Twitter's been great recently. So you can get the link. It'll be right below the video. You can just click on it. Or if you just, I've got it up on the screen here, take your camera app from your phone out, point it right at that QR code, and it's going to give you the link, and you can just download it right to your phone. So that is the housekeeping. And now we got to get into the good stuff. Bo, where do we start? Do we start with you telling us that Biden was only going to serve 2 years? And now it sounded crazy 3 weeks ago, and now all of a sudden the world looks very different. Do we start about the petrodollar collapse that you've been telling us about for 2 years and what the Saudis just did, because it's a game changer? Where do you want to go?
So let's start with our interview of January 3rd, so basically 20 days ago. If you can shoot over to page 22. So in December of last year, so just a month ago, I have received some downloads, and it was specifically related to the prophecy of the presidents. And what I said on the 3rd of January, and everybody literally thought this was insane. I said, the jackal, which is Biden, is only going to get technically on or about 2 years of presidency. And that was stated on January 3rd. And at that time, not one news outlet, everybody was protecting him. There was nothing negative in regards to him. He was fully protected by the mainstream media. And so that was stated on January 3rd that he's going to get 2 years, and then he's going to start to fall. And next thing you know, he'll be out of office because 45 comes back and returns this year. That was thought to be crazy, only to find out last Friday was January 20th, the official exact 2-year inauguration date. Guess what happened to the exact day? The FBI raided his home. You can't make this up. It happened to the exact day.
Yes.
And then on that day or the next day, CNN is out bashing him. And so the mainstream media turned on him, just like what was stated per the psychoanalysis on January 3rd. Go ahead, Noah.
I won't call it hate mail, but I got a lot of comments and a lot of emails from our last interview 3 weeks ago saying never going to happen. Bo's lost it, and then sure enough, I mean they're literally raiding his house. Unthinkable just a month ago.
Yes, 20 days ago. That's the thing. When I received the revelation, I jumped out of bed because I'm like, this makes so much sense in terms of the timelines, like the 1, 2, 4 year pattern. And I'm like, wow, that's incredible. And then I correlated when I got the word specifically Joseph, and then I looked into Genesis 41, how Joseph went from what? The pits, meaning jail, to the palace, second in command of all the world. Because remember, the world itself, the powerhouse was Egypt at the time, okay? Now the powerhouse of the world is the world. It's a worldwide system. But then it was Egypt. And so he the only person that Joseph would answer to was Pharaoh, the Babylonian king. That's it. Otherwise, everybody was under him. He went in 2 years. So how long has 45 been out of office?
2
years. We're going to see incredible stuff go down this year.
Amazing. And are we just crossed that 2-year mark?
We've said this on your podcast, our interviews, and all other interviews I've been stating for the past year now, I don't know, at least quite a while, that as much as all the cards are lined up and everything's happening, nothing's technically happened, meaning that who's still in office? He's still in office. All the things, all the lawsuits, everything that's been going on in the world, really, nothing really has happened yet. Why? Because no man is allowed to get the glory in this, right? So it's written in Amos, God does nothing before first speaking through his servants, the prophets. What has God been doing? He's been speaking to many prophets. I listened to several of them. I also get maybe prophetic little words here and there. I got the word Biden. I got the word, 2 years. And so the point is, all these presentations that I put together, I'm telling you, much of it is prophetic, just like I got the word Lazarus, right? Lazarus, meaning the United States is going to die. It's going to get really ugly, but it has to happen that way, because then when it comes back to life, like baptism, right? Baptism is you die to self and then you're born in Jesus. So the United States must die to be born again. And so we haven't had that moment in time. I know all of this sounds crazy to a lot of people, but you have to understand, we are a covenant nation, just like Israel is. We have a covenant with God. And so because of the covenant, the time windows, so like the 400 years that Israel was in bondage to Pharaoh, well, what is the chance and the probability that the Mayflower, we're at 400 years plus 2 right here, right now? This is it. Okay. So if you add that 2 year in, that we've talked about, everything's right here. It's incredible that the time windows that were happening thousands of years ago for Israel are now right here happening to us. So I love how incredible God the Father is, and Jesus and the Holy Spirit, how they're structuring and letting all this play out. But ultimately, right, these past 2 years, why would God do this? Why would he allow the jackal to come in there for 2 years? Well, if you think about it, it's a double-edged sword, right? The first side of it was, as evil as these people are, including Fauci, right? As sick and disgusting as these people are, God made them. Like, he loves them. They're his children. It's just that they, like Pharaoh, have dug in their heels and refused to turn from their what? wicked ways. So at some point, God is love, but at some point, where's the beginning point of all wisdom? Like, what's the beginning of wisdom? Knowing that there is a God.
Mm-hmm.
That's the beginning of wisdom. And so there's so many people out there that think they're so smart. All these, some of these are global elite, these elect, they are so smart in their own, brains in their head. They think they're so wise, but the Bible's clear about this. They profess themselves to be wise, and yet they are fools.
So
Fools. True. They're coming against the Creator. He knows what these evil people were going to do before they did it. So he's given them 2 years to turn from their wicked way, O wayward sheep. But at the same time, too, he gave the other side of the coin was the churches. We know who the churches were that closed their doors. The church's job is to lead the sheep, not close the door on them.
Right.
So many churches, these mega churches, close the door on the sheep. God's more upset right now at the church leaders for closing the door on the sheep because their job was to lead the sheep. And yet they closed the door on them. And then the last part of it was the 2 years allowed us to see what evil's agenda is.
Yes, it did.
So we would be so clear to know how sick and twisted and disgusting evil is. That's kind of a big introduction into what we're going to talk about.
You had a wonderful post that I saw on Truth Social the other day. I don't know if you have that handy, but it was right on that same point. If you're able to find that or pull it up quick, I'd like to have you read that, and then I'd like to talk right after that about the Brunson case, because I'm getting a lot of questions about that as well. You have some thoughts on that. I want to hear your thoughts, and I want to kind of tie it all together. So when you have that ready, I'd love to have. I got it here.
There are so many people out there with this, with this circle with a line through it, that movement, and then the guys with the white hat, trust the plan, and there's all this stuff behind the scenes, and everybody's doing everything. I want to read this. This came from my heart, and I wrote this, and I posted this on Truth Social, and I want the viewers and the listeners to listen to this very closely. No man, including that guy with the circle and the line through it, that movement, or the guys with the white, hat, knows exactly when and how God is going to thwart, meaning stop evil. It's God's secret. I'm going to repeat how God's going to do this and when he's going to do it. It's God's secret. If this letter circle with a line through it was around during the time of Moses, he would have had no knowledge about what was coming for Pharaoh and his army at the Red Sea. And the same goes for today. They have no knowledge of what God is going to do and when he's going to do it. Yes, God speaks through his servants, the prophets. However, the final chess move, the strike, the one that takes down the first domino, no man knows. It's God's secret. God's word to me was very simple. Some things must remain hidden so that the enemy will be caught unprepared. So as a perfect example, retrospectively, if this Brunson case, if this case went through and they ruled in Brunson's favor, okay, they would have been national worldwide heroes. Who would have gotten the glory? That's the point. Yep. Is it dead in the water? Absolutely not. I'm telling you, watch, because the dates that this thing laid out on is going to be biblical on the back end. But before anything happens, and you can go from here, before any man is allowed to step back into office, before any man, because some legal case takes down these people, God is going to move like he did at the Red Sea. He's going to close the Red Sea on the current day Pharaoh's heads and all the minions that work for them. They are going to see sudden death like Pharaoh did in a 24-hour window. Why does it take so long? Because I want to answer that question very simple. Because God is long-suffering. Because when he moves, Noah, when God moves in 24 hours, everything that you can possibly imagine changes. Go ask Noah when he closed the door, when the ground broke open and the rain started, the entire world flooded. Why? Because God moved. Look what happened to the Red Sea. The entire kingdom of Egypt and Pharaoh and all these generations of pharaohs was destroyed in a single day because God moved. So why is it taking so long? Because when God moves, everything we know to be true is suddenly going to change and blow people's minds.
Yeah, that's so good. And so I've been hearing this too from a lot of people that there are several paths for the Brunson case to still continue on. It's not dead. I'm hearing that from you now too, and I'd heard that from a couple other people. So that's exciting, and we'll cover some of those in the future about exactly how that works. So instead of the Brunson case being the thing that breaks everything open and gets all the glory, imagine if we have this one day that you keep talking about, this 24-hour period of time when God breaks everything open and they never see it coming. It's that Red Sea moment, the water crashes in, and then imagine if the Brunson case comes around to kind of pick up the crumbs and do some cleanup on the back end. That sounds pretty cool to me.
We've prayed, we've turned from our wicked ways. Why? Because we've overturned Roe v. Wade, where God is now with us. So now we're just waiting for the moment God strikes. When God strikes, then yes, we're going to see things start to unraveling. The visual I can give you is when God strikes, if you visualize a room with 1 million dominoes, okay, when those dominoes, I'm telling you, not one is down yet. And these people that run the world and rule the world, they will never, ever let that first domino go down, because everyone knows when a domino goes down, what happens to the rest of them in the room. Okay,
right.
So it's a fight to the death to make sure one domino, the first one, is not allowed to go down. Okay, that is what is going on. But because God knows what they're doing, he knows their plan, and he's long suffering. He's been waiting and strategizing. He's basically letting them fall into their own trap, at their own demise. And then he's going to act swiftly. He will take down the first domino, and they will not know what hit them. And therefore, because they don't know what hit them, they won't be able to stop the other dominoes from falling. Get it?
Yeah,
So
that's good.
So God's going to act swiftly, and that'll be coupled with worldwide earthquakes. I'm telling you, they'll be shaking across the world. When God acts, that first domino goes down. They're not going to know what hit them, and they will not be able to stop the second domino and the third and the fourth. The next thing you know, the whole room of dominoes starts collapsing in 24 hours. So it's going to be biblical. And I'm telling you, if there was ever a point in time when it could happen, well, we knew that Roe v. Wade was first argued in Supreme Court in December of 2021. That's right. We've waited and waited for 2 years. From December of 1971, it wasn't until January of 1973, so 2 years, Roe v. Wade case was in the Supreme Court, just like the presidency.
Mm-hmm.
And now, yesterday, January 22nd, Roe v. Wade officially was 50 years from when it became law, and January 22nd of 1973. So we're here. The 2-year window is now marked. It's complete, which means that it's tick tock. We don't know. And now we just wait to see when God strikes. When's about to happen? I've been on your show in the past, and I've said specifically about the end. What did we say on the January 3rd show? I said, watch the end of January and the first couple days of February. Okay. So I'm not changing my position. Everything is still lined up for things to start to begin, manifest, start. And as crazy as it is, look what happened. On January 3rd, people thought it was insane to think, that Biden gets 2 years, only to find it on the 2-year inauguration, the exact day, CNN's reporting on him, against him, as the FBI is raiding his home. So, well, that's telling you.
That's why we had to have you on today, because we are in the thick of it. It's January 23rd, and if you think we've seen stuff already, it's just getting started. So we had to have you on today, and this is so good. I'm so excited. So we're only on the first slide we've looked at, and there's so much in here. I have 2 more questions on this before I get to the next one that you wanted to take us to. So real quick, I like the little pink zone here where Biden has 2 years and then he's out. We're in that area right now. And I want to touch on something that you told me before we started the interview. I think your exact words were, Trump is not allowed to come back in until we've had the crash, and that crash is not on his record. Then he comes back in and rebuilds. Can you talk about that for a minute?
Sure. So what we've said before, right? Numerous interviews, including, I believe, yours, but specifically the words were, it's the Biden collapse. Okay. The financial collapse is the Biden collapse.
I like that.
all of it basically is the collapse of Babylon, which specifically was been built with the US dollar. So the US dollar, and then that's going to take us into the Saudi Arabia contract in a minute for now. But the point is, it's the US dollar, it's the collapse, right? So when a seal opens, a third seal, this is the third seal of Revelation. When a seal opens, it's a worldwide phenomenon. It's not local to the United States or any country, it's all countries, it's the world. So when the third seal manifests, the US dollar will collapse. I'm guessing maybe a 30% sudden haircut or drop in value, causing everything priced in the dollar to plummet. And then when that happens, it's going to cause havoc and chaos. And it's also going to be triggered with other currencies across the globe and the world, because all currencies are fiat, meaning that they are not attached to gold. They're just money by decree. That's really what a fiat currency is. It's, some king, some government agency says that this piece of paper is money. That's called money by decree. Mm-hmm. And so all money, so the only money I believe that is going to weather this financial collapse is the ruble, because the ruble right now is pegged to gold. Okay. And actually oil as well too. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. But it's the financial system is going to start to blow up across the world, and as the sun rises, so will the economies be collapsing globally. So it's going to be a worldwide phenomenon that happens, and then you have to have someone come back and rebuild what was broken. Yep. Because God destroys the economy. And they may try to do this, try to enslave us. Think of what happened at the Red Sea, right? Pharaoh goes into the Red Sea to kill Israel, but God had a secondary, bigger plan. So Pharaoh's plan to destroy Israel failed horribly because God had a bigger plan and destroyed Pharaoh, right? So no matter what happens, whether they try to crash the economy, it's a moot point, because however this triggers and goes down, God's got the final say into taking them down. And then you're going to have 45 return, because he needs to fix what God broke. I'm going to repeat, 45 has to come, because he's not going to get the glory. The world's going to, the U.S. specifically, because in the world secondary, but the U.S. is going to need him, because they're going to need him to come rebuild what's a broken financial system. It's broken, but yet we need to transact. Like horrible things are going on financially. It's going to look horrible for the world, but it's supposed to. But those that are in the church and the bride know this is coming. So they're expecting it. So when these horrible things happen, you're like, oh my goodness, the economy collapsed. It's crashed. The U.S. economy died, is dead, right? It's gonna look bad, but it needs to look bad. Yeah. But remember, when it looks bad, that's when God shows up, and God's got a bigger plan. And then Trump 45 returns to rebuild what's broken. And for that reason, because it's on the 4 cycle, 4 years, I'm telling you, the probability for an election in 2024 is like next to zero, okay? Because he's going to get 4 years. If I had to guess, now I'm going to make a guess. I was doing some math this morning based on the election cycles, and look on the crash cycle that I'm expecting here. If I had to guess, and just mark it down as a guess, Noah, that I believe he comes back in May.
Oh, wow.
So that's my latest guesstimate. Again, none of it matters, because I know he comes back this year. Okay. Wow. But if I had to guess, it could be sooner, maybe before that. Could happen very soon here. Well, I don't know. But if we keep waiting, it could go all the way into May. But it makes sense relative to the cycle for the angel of death. And that angel of death cycle is seen specifically, that we talked about, I think before in our prior shows on page 12. You see, the angel of death, for those who don't know, the angel of death is the angel that showed up in the time of Egypt and in Israel. God instructed Moses to tell the Israelites to paint blood above their doors so that the angel of death would not enter. And so wherever there was blood, the angel of death would pass over that home. That's why it's called Passover. And then the angel of death would then go to the homes that didn't have the blood And the angel of death was very specific in what happened. He would kill the firstborn of every Egyptian, including the beasts that didn't have blood on the door. And the reason God did that was because he turned the words of Pharaoh on himself, because Pharaoh was so angry at Moses, he instructed his army to go kill Moses's firstborn son. And God turned the words of Pharaoh on himself, and thus not only did his first son be killed by the angel of death, so was all of his kingdom's firstborn. So you just knew when that event went down, there's no way after that event you didn't know God did it, because it was only the firstborn. You know, it's mathematically impossible to have an entire kingdom and all the firstborn only killed. You know what I'm saying? It's just, it doesn't make any sense, but yet it happened. So this angel of death is now on the earth per Kent Christmas. And the interesting part is, I know for a fact, God only acts when it's the right time and the right season. And what I mean by that is God's only going to act when it's a feast. And I know that because I've seen that on the chart cycles already, whereas like the first seal opened on Hanukkah, the second seal opened on Pentecost, right? And so we're looking for a third seal event. The third seal, Noah, I don't know when it's going to open, but if I had to guess, well, then when is the next feast? The next feast is Passover. Okay, so we know the next feast is Passover. And so when specifically is Passover? Well, if we look at, if we pull it up on the charts this year, it's April 13th. So if you look on page 21, this is the cycle that relates to the angel of death. So it ends on April 13th. Does something happen then? God knows, not me. But I'm telling you, we really need to be watching closely here the middle of April. Something huge is expected to happen. God is not going to be mocked by these people. He's given them 2 years. It's up, it's over. So something biblical is coming. And it's going to be something the world's never going to forget. After this event goes down, I believe here, because when God acts, he's going to act, I'm telling you, on a feast. After this event that happens on the feast, the people of the world are going to say these things don't happen unless they happen by the hand of God. There must be a God. Words like that will be spoken, that people will acknowledge God. They're going to acknowledge Jesus. People will be looking and acknowledging Jesus, God the Father, the Holy Spirit. Why? Because things like this never happen. But whatever is about to happen is going to be so historic. The only rational explanation that you can give it is because it was by the hand of God.
Yeah, wow. What's coming to mind is when Biden said it's going to be I forget what he said. It was like it's going to be the winter of death or an ugly winter or something. Wonder if that ends up being prophetic and boomeranging back around.
Well, right. Look what happened to Pharaoh. So it's a great point you bring up. Pharaoh wished that specific on Noah's on Moses's first son. And look what happened to him, right?
Yeah, look at
that.
So
I'm telling you, God's going to use their own words against them. So whatever that means, we're going to find out. But something's coming. Something big is coming, and we are, at a point where we're going to find out that we've waited longer. This took 2 extra years that we really didn't know about, only to find out these 2 years were because of God's grace, and it specifically relates to the timeline of Genesis 41 and Joseph. Specifically. So let's talk about the petrodollar for a minute on page 17.
Yeah,
because I really want to make a point of that, and then we'll get to the brothers of Goliath. But see, people have, we've seen this slide numerous times, and how the 24 ends up being, for some, very interesting reason, because it's the 1-2-4 pattern. But it seems the 24 ends up playing very important with regards to important events for God's timeline, a time window. And this is the thing that I wanted to bring up. So page 6, this is important because we've talked about the 50-year Jubilee cycle for Nixon taking us off the gold standard.
Mm-hmm.
So that event happened on August 15th of 1971. 50 years to the exact day, Kabul fell. No, we abandoned Kabul on August 15th of 2021. How does that happen? 50 years to the exact day. So then what happened? So now let's go to page 17, right?
Yeah.
And so what happened 9 days later?
And I just want to say, Bo, this is one of those things that when you first started talking about this petrodollar thing, a lot of people didn't even understand it or know what you're talking about, and then people thought it was crazy. It's literally happening right now. Here it is right here.
Yeah. So why was I making such a big deal about it? Because I know that if God was going to take down the financial system, the control mechanisms of the world, he has to take down the US dollar, because that's what they've been using for generations to buy and pay off everybody. So what happened 9 days later after the fall of Kabul? Well, Saudi Arabia calls up Russia. Hey, Putin, like, think about the phone call, right? Like, you got to laugh, right? Hey, Putin, our neighbors just got abandoned by the United States. We're a little nervous. You think you might be able to give us some military protection? Like, you got to admit, that was the phone call. Why else would they call them? And you have, and it's been 50. Now, this is like a second layer to the equation, right? Because why? In 1973, Saudi Arabia signed a contract with the United States. That created what's called the current day petrodollar. Okay, so why would Saudi Arabia need a contract with Russia if, the big if, they already have a contract with the United States? They don't, right? But they contracted with Russia. So when I said that contract that was signed on August 24th of 2021 is going to mark the collapse of the US dollar within about a couple of years. And look what's happening right now. We just had last week in Davos, Saudi Arabia, who apparently has a contract, there's the next page, who apparently has a contract with the United States, actually said, you know what, United States, we're just going to accept payment in any other currency. But the part of the agreement was they would only accept payment in the US dollar. Get it? The agreement was you only accept payment in the US dollar and we will give you military protection. That was the contract. Well, we broke the contract we basically abandoned Kabul. Saudi Arabia doesn't trust us anymore. And look, they go team up with Russia. And now look what's happening. Last week, it was on, I think it was whatever date that is there, on the 17th of January, Saudi Arabia clearly announced, their words were, Saudi Arabia says open to settling trade in other currencies. I've been telling you that is an act of war, and it's an act of war. So we are about to see incredible financial things start to blow up, including, I do feel in my heart, for some reason, because this is going to be the clash of the Titans on page 19, I'm telling you, they're going to pull the nuclear card. They're going to tell us this is the end. Nuclear war is coming. And remember, they cannot let, why would they state those words, Noah? Because if the dollar crashes, they lose their control. So what happens with a wild beast pinned into a corner? He's going to pull out everything he's got to not let that first domino fall. But remember, if you understand the times and the seasons, what do? I'm an analyst of time, and I study the times and the seasons. If you understand the seals, the financial event that's coming is the third seal. So we're not in like tribulation where nuclear war is coming. You know, we're not even close. But so then Matthew even tells us that, Matthew 24 says, be not deceived. The end is not yet. So I want to be clear about that. So whatever happens here in the near future, whatever they say, Satan is the big liar, and his only job is to deceive you, scare you, so that you will listen. Period. Yeah. That takes us to the next slide here on 20. You know, look at these time points here. This is a time point where worldwide tensions are building. Okay, so we have on the 20th last week, it's 2 years for the inauguration. Yesterday, 50 years for Roe v. Wade, and interesting enough, it's the 50 years for the Trump-Melania wedding anniversary. Tomorrow is the 1-2-4 pattern. 2 days later is 21 months and 6 days. That's the cycle of time from when Ginsburg died. The cycle foretold that. And to when Roe v. Wade was overturned, it was 21 months and 6 days. So that's January 26th. And then that further completes the pattern that we're looking at, which relates to February 1st through 3rd is a very important time window that we should be watching. So basically, what I've noticed is anytime a very powerful time point like hits like Roe v. Wade being overturned, say January 22nd, okay, usually within 7 to 10 days of that time window, something very big could happen. So I'm just saying, so starting now for the next 7 to 10 days, we need to watch close. Something very big can trigger here into this first few days of February, and as January's ending. Back to our January 3rd interview saying, watch the end of January. So we're very close to things starting to manifest, or could manifest here. Something very big is about to go down. And then that leads us into April. I believe is going to be a month the world's never going to forget. Because if the angel of death shows up and we see, hundreds, maybe thousands of people dying in a single day, this is going to be a very sad day. But there's going to be a day that's coming that happened very similar to what happened to Pharaoh. I believe that event is coming in April. So it's not going to be, there's not going to be any kind of happy joy. Joy is going to be a very sad time for the world. But remember, as much as God loves his creation, at some point he has to judge, and these people have mocked him. They've gone against him. They ridicule him, and the world has been doing nothing but idol worship, chasing money. And he needs to wake up his church. And then that leads us into, I believe there's going to be a secondary event somewhere in mid to probably at the end of May. And at that time, on May 28th, the latter rain, which was birthed in Pentecost of the year 2020, the latter rain will be 3 years old. So we are going to start doing there's going to be some incredible things that are going to start to, specifically revival, the Holy Spirit coming across the world. It's going to be a year of the word incredible, and it's coming May. It's going to be very exciting time points. So what was sad in the month of April, we're going to start seeing exciting times, happy days coming in later in May. So we'll see how this plays out. But I believe May into June will be pivotal months for the world. And January, as it ends, so as this month ends and as February begins, I believe we're going to see the first events start to manifest here in terms of something big beginning to happen. And that does correlate and relate directly to precious metals and cryptocurrencies. So there you go, Noah.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I wanted to ask you next. So kind of tying this together, I think it's going to take us to our third topic that you were right about, which is Bitcoin. And I can't wait to show those charts here in just a minute. But I want to make sure I understand this. So when oil is no longer sold in the dollar, that means there's a lot less demand for dollars. That means the dollar plummets. And when the dollar plummets and goes down, then Bitcoin typically goes way up. Is that the way it works?
The world has been using the fiat money system for years now, for generations. Okay, so this event that's expected is the collapse of the US dollar, which means that other countries are simply not going to want it. I'm going to repeat, other countries are not going to want the dollar. So if you want to go buy a car in Japan, or as an example, let's say you want to buy a car in Japan or a car in Germany, some product in a different country, they're not going to want the dollar. And so we're going to need to settle financial agreements in something. And this is why I've been on your show, I don't know how many times, saying it's really critically important to understand and get involved in precious metals, number one, because that's God's money, but also cryptocurrencies, because you're not going to send a piece of silver or gold across the ocean to go buy something, okay? When you got a phone in your hand or a computer, you can click 3 buttons and your transaction's paid for. You see what I'm saying? So it's so easy to click 1 or 2 or 3 buttons and your transaction's paid for and you're off to the races. But gold and silver are a store of value. I have shown this chart on many interviews, this gold chart you're looking at here, okay? And look what happened when the year started. The second trading day of 2023, gold broke out. On the third trading day, it retested the breakout. And on the fourth trading day of January of this year, 2023, the breakout was confirmed on January 6th. Mm-hmm. And this is like that chart from today. And I wrote this a while ago. This is a confirmed breakout. It's up and away for precious metals. And how does precious metals, gold, relate to silver? Very simple, okay? Gold starts the race. And then silver plays catch up like you've never seen before, okay? Mm-hmm. So they're fighting tooth and nail to not let silver go. Because what is silver, Noah? It's a bank killer. Mm-hmm. Okay? So gold is going up. And it's telling you what silver's soon to do. But when gold breaks out even more aggressively and starts to run, silver is going to go crazy. But when silver breaks out, it's going to start taking down the banks.
In fact, Bo, let me play a short video. I didn't know you were going to talk about that, but I just saw this the other day. Let me share my screen. I think this will fit right in.
You guys want to have some serious fun? You want to pull a GameStop on a level, an order of magnitude higher than GameStop itself? Here's what you do. You tell everybody you know to go and buy 3 or 4 ounces of silver. That's all. If everybody in the United States, literally every man, woman, and child in the United States, said they wanted 4 ounces of physical silver, that would be over 1 billion ounces of silver. And you know what that would do? It would instantly, overnight, collapse the entire banking system. All of the JP Morgans, the Jamie Dimons, the BlackRocks, all these blood-sucking leeches who have been stealing trillions of dollars from us for dozens of years now would have to cover. And guess what? They can't cover their shorts. They've shorted silver for so many years to drive the price down that all we have to do now that it's already in short supply is ask for more.
There you go. How about that?
There's another level to that, because all you need is when God intervenes. See, as much as we try to do this stuff, we're not going to win. And I don't want to sound like bad news, but the problem is that Satan's been around for 6,000 years. Okay, he knows how humanity works. He knows how we think. And as much as though it's like that's a great idea, great plan. Okay, it might work for a day. Then we might, break the system for a day. But then they're very quickly going to do something, and they're going to fight and resist it from manifesting. Because remember, this is a fight to the death for them, right? This is literally a fight to the death for them, and they cannot let silver go vertical. They can't let silver go through $30, through $60, and into $100, because if it does that, that event means that the dollar is worth less. Not worth less like zero, it means worth less by a sizable amount. And so what's going to happen is I see more of how it's going to play out is the BRICS nations. So because Saudi Arabia now announced that they're going to accept payment in other currencies for oil. And so we're going to have the BRICS nations, and this is a prophetic word. If you actually go to page 16, it's right on page 16. Kim Clement prophesied how this is going to play out. So the brothers of Goliath, what does that mean? So Goliath means a giant, okay? Brothers means that they come from the same bloodline. So they're giants also, get it? Russia, Brazil, India, China, South Africa, now Saudi Arabia. So those are the brothers of Goliath. And the prophetic word was the brothers of Goliath stand in glee, meaning we're proud. We know we have a plan. What's the word? We will cripple you. So we're about to see, as much as we may, let's go buy all the silver up. That's a great plan. But there's a bigger plan. And the bigger plan is BRICS. They are about to crash the US dollar. When that event happens, now this is interesting, Noah. When that event happens, you're going to have 1 or 2 billionaires freak out and call up all the dealers that they know and say, give me anything and everything you got, gold and silver. And they're going to buy everything available in a single day. So as much as the population buying 4 ounces, imagine 1, 2 billionaires come in, it's game over. And that's how this is going to go down. In a single day, you're going to see silver keep leaping vertical, leaping vertical, leaping vertical. And once it breaks through a certain point, 40, 50, once it breaks through 50, it's going to start collapsing the banks, because the banks, as he said, are net short. So when the price starts to go dollars above 50, they're going to lose billions per second. It's going to be crazy. And then we're going to see the collapse of many banks that have been playing we're going to control and suppress the price of silver for all eternity. And that's great until God shows up, until Jesus says enough.
Our guest today is Bo Polny, and it's been an incredible interview already. Bo, I got to take us in for a landing on this ship, but we cannot wrap this up until we talk about Bitcoin. That's the third area that you were just nailed in our last interview.
look at the slide that's right in front of you, Noah, because I haven't changed the. This is the slide still from dated January 11th. Okay, but we did an interview, and the breakout. You see the bottom right there. It says breakout January 6th. So Bitcoin broke out of this it's called a wedge on January 6th. But if you go back to our interview, so January 3rd would have been 3 days before January 6th, right? It was just inside that wedge, and I said Bitcoin's about when January starts up. Now that it's starting, Bitcoin's about to break out of this wedge and go vertical. Noah, we nailed it. Exactly. And what happened? Bitcoin went vertical. It's up 40%, 44%, or since the bottom, probably 35% from our interview, precisely how we laid it out. Go ahead, Noah.
Yeah, that's right. It was we lived through it, and it was boring for a long time. Bitcoin was just sitting at 16,800, 16,900. It would go up a little bit, go down a little bit. You can see it right in your screen here. It was just really boring. And then you came on our show and you said, watch out, big moves coming. And I'd say 40% move in 3 weeks is pretty big. I don't know about you. What do you think?
Well, absolutely right. And that's some of the alternate coins that we followed in our charts. Some have done like 100% move already, right? So like that's why I kept saying, in our reports, as good as Bitcoin is, Bitcoin's a small percentage of my holdings because I follow some very strong and I believe very powerful alternate coins. But Bitcoin is like the grandfather, right? So Bitcoin is like gold. It moves slower. But when Bitcoin dictates direction, right? So when Bitcoin is in the bear market, meaning when Bitcoin is heading down, so is everything else. Okay. But when Bitcoin's going up, so is everything else. So we track Bitcoin as a directional mover, but then we follow, and I personally hold the alternate coins because they multiply the performance of Bitcoin. So several of our coins that we've already got have multiplied the performance of Bitcoin. So as good as Bitcoin is, some of the alternate coins are already multiplying the performance or way outperforming the performance of Bitcoin. And we've just started. Noah, we've just started. We got the cycles for the next few months here that I've laid out for the subscribers. Whoa. Talk about exciting, right? What's coming? There's chaos coming here at the end of January into February. So there's going to be a lot of volatility. I'm telling you. If you're just involved in cryptocurrencies, fantastic. But if you're interested in patterns, there's a lot of volatility and extreme volatility coming here really, really soon. I mean up, and I mean down, and I mean down, I mean up.
And it can be scary if you don't have if you don't know what to expect or don't have a guide. So yeah, that's exactly right. You have the cycles posted, and in one of your recent newsletters, you put, I think you only do this about once a year, but you put kind of your future price targets on where you think these coins can go in the next year. And some of those are we obviously can't say it here live on the show out of respect for the people that do subscribe to that service. But some of those are just mind blowing. And I'm with you. We talk about Bitcoin because it's the easy one that everyone understands and it's easy to kind of follow where it's going. But the exciting ones are the ones that are on this screen, and even some other ones that aren't on this screen that you cover in your report. But there's some of these that, I mean, I'll give a shout out to the XRP army. I have XRP. It's one that I like. I know it's in your report. I won't say exactly how much you have allocated to that or what you think for that, but that's an exciting one. And it's at 42 cents right now. It was as high as 384, and it may be going a lot higher than that. So all of that stuff is in there. I always say this because I love that this is kind of your opinion, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you always tell people, if you want to just buy it and hold it and forget about it, just go do that. You don't need my report. But if you're interested in knowing some of those ups and downs and the time cycles about when it's going to start getting crazy, when it's going to be boring, when to get in, when to get out, that's what this service is for. So this is something Bo runs. He does these interviews for free. He puts these slides out for free. He gives you sneak peeks and hints for free. But if you want the full deal, that's where you get this newsletter, and only get it if you want it. And I love that he says that. If it's not for you, it's not for you. But for the people that do want to check it out, the link's on the screen. You go to gold2020forecast.com. And then Bo always puts together a discount code that you can plug in there when you're going through and signing up. There's going to be a box it asks if you have a code. You put in WLT49. It's going to give you 50% off. So you can get in there for 14 days, click around. You can get all the reports. All the historical reports are in there. And that code is only good for a little bit. So if you want it, go ahead and grab it now. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about, a couple other things real quick, Bo, is you did something cool. I asked you if you'd be willing to do this, and this is not one of the coins that's in your report. I'll just tell people that right now. Maybe you'll add it at some point, but it's one that I've gotten interested in recently, and there's a lot of people that really seem to love this on Twitter, and so I that's kind of how I started following it. But it's called ICP, and short for Internet Computer. It's a big play in the AI space, and so I was interested to see what you thought about it. You put together this chart, and can tell people a little bit. Take a minute or two, and what are we looking at here?
What I would say is I really ran a long-term pattern here for you. This is like one example of what I do for all the coins that we follow. Currently, it's trading at like $5.75 range. It doesn't have enough history for me to really be comfortable with it. So I like more history on a chart. But since you asked me to do it, I ran the chart patterns for it. And in the near term, I would say, $26 is what the charts are pointing to. And in the longer term, over 300 is very, very feasible for this coin. It could go a lot higher. But right now, I don't believe there's much downside for this coin. It's patterning out like many other coins that we follow. So it looks like a good coin. Nothing bad to say about it.
Well, there you go. Bo's on record. The first time he has ever covered ICP, and he did it here live for us. So, and that's the kind of stuff that we're talking about. Just as an example, Bo, again, I want to be clear. This is not one of the coins you follow in your report, but this is what you're talking about when you talk about those altcoins or the alternative coins, which is basically anything other than Bitcoin.
Since you brought this chart up, so this is the kind of a chart, but we can go longer term for it, that I ran for all of our coins that we follow. And that was in, I think it was December 28th update of last year. And we covered all the coins with long-term projections in the next bull market and what's supposed to get triggered and hit. Some of the price targets are rather awesome on some of these alternate coins. So that's what makes me enjoy doing these things is pattern analysis with cycles, then projections forward, because then you really know kind of what's coming and what to expect. And some of the price targets on some of the alternate coins, they're going to be mind-blowing. It's going to be crazy, because when the financial system breaks here, specifically the US dollar financial system breaks, you have to understand a breaking of the financial system, the dollar, people are going to flock, because the economy doesn't end, right? People still continue to need to transact. So people are going to need to buy things. And so that's why, understanding cryptocurrencies and blockchain and how to have it on your phone and pay for things, as much as people are out there saying, I don't need to learn that stuff. Well, you're going to need to learn this stuff when other countries aren't accepting the US dollar as payment and you want to buy something. And so I'm just telling you, it's just, we're heading into an age of blockchain. And because the financial system that we've grown up with is about to break. The world reserve currency is about to break, the US dollar, coupled with virtually every other currency in the world, because they're fiat. They're fiat. They're not backed by gold. When God intervenes, the paper fiat money system is going to break. Whether you agree or not, it is going to happen.
Yeah. So this is just one example. And I will say, I don't want to give away too much out of respect for people that are subscribers, but this is just one example. You've got some coins in your report that are more exciting even than this one. But I would say going from here to here, or even just to this one, is pretty amazing. But you've got some other really cool stuff in your report, some other coins, some that are fractions of a penny. I always think that's really cool. When you could buy a whole ton of them, but they're fractions of a penny, and you've got some crazy targets on those.
There's people are fixated on certain coins. There's other coins there are a lot of coins that are good out there, but the downside is when this event goes down, I think there's 2,000 or 3,000 coins, Noah. I think by the end of this year, maybe next year, there might be only 100 left.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying? Like, the world doesn't need 3,000 coins. It's not necessary, period. Okay.
Yep.
When the dollar crashes, the world's going to need to transact, but we don't need 3,000 coins. We might need 100. I don't know, but we don't need 3,000.
Our guest today has been Bo Polny, the analyst of time. It's been another fantastic interview. I've had so much fun. I'll end up on this screen here. So if you just heard all that, and if your mind is spinning a little bit, or if you're even getting a little anxiety right now because you want to get involved, you should, you feel called to it. Everyone needs to do what they believe is best. Bo and I are not financial advisors. We're just telling you what we do and what Bo sees out there in the cycles. But if you're feeling the nudge to figure this out and it's intimidating to you, I always love telling people about this. I've told friends and family about this, and I love covering it when we talk to Bo. He created this thing he calls the Easy Crypto School, and the name is self-explanatory. If you know nothing about how to buy Bitcoin or any of these coins, if it's intimidating to you, if you're starting to get a little cold sweat right now just thinking about it, and if you don't want to make a mistake or fall into a scam or send coins to the wrong place or do something wrong, this is what you need. This is really great. I get so many awesome reviews and feedback from people that said they've got this and liked it. So you just go to easycryptoschool.com, and Bo's also giving you a code for this one, so you can get 50% off. Get in there, check it out, take all the courses, and see if you like it. You put in the same code, WLT49, and that's going to give you the discount. But Bo does put expirations on those, so that code will not last forever. So if you want it, grab it now. And you might want to grab it before the end of January, because if you've been paying attention, there may be some big things coming. So I like to talk about those because Bo is humble and doesn't like to talk too much about his own stuff. But I've been a subscriber to his newsletter for, a couple years now. I love it. Every time they come into my inbox, I stop what I'm doing and I read the latest report. And by the way, you get a report, usually every 2, 3, 4 days, something like that. Bo kicks out a new one, and they're always so fun to read. So I talk about that so Bo doesn't have to, but I really do. I only talk about things I like, and I really like what Bo puts out. So I'm going to put you back on the big screen, and I want you to leave us with whatever thought you'd like to leave us with as we wrap this up.
All I want to finish up with is I want to thank you for having me, Noah. We are living in very exciting times. Things are about to manifest here. We've waited, and I know we waited. And at this point in time, something big is about to manifest. I've discussed how important, this 50-year cycle is. Roe v. Wade, we're at the 50-year mark. Something big is coming. And I'm telling you, by the time April hits, our minds will be blown what happens in April. So, it's important to know who Jesus is. It's important to know God. It's important to know the Holy Spirit. It's important to know that God's got this. The world is controlled by evil. There's nothing great out there, okay? There really is nothing great out there. The choices you make today are for your tomorrow. And you have to understand that when not Joshua came down the mountain of Sinai, he goes, choose this day whom you will serve. If you choose to continue to live in this world and watch media, watch the news, and watch all the bad news out there, that's all it is. It's depressing and it's scary. And better to stop looking down the rabbit hole of how horrible things are and actually just look to God. So, get on your knees, pray to God, say, God, thank you for everything in my life. And just finishing with, God's got this. So as horrible as things are about to get, because it's going to get ugly, but the United States has to go through this to come out and be born again, just like what happened to Lazarus. Jesus Christ was the glory. You read Isaiah 61, he was the glory, and we're about to see glory manifest on this earth here, and it's going to be incredible. And the question I have for you, have you prepared? Which of the 5 virgins are you? There was 10 virgins, 5 chose to prepare, 5 chose not to prepare. The Bible says, I don't know how many times prepare. So my question to you is, have you prepared? God loves you. Noah, thank you for having me here. God bless.
What a perfect way to end it. Thank you, Bo. We'll see you next time.
Amen.